young people below the age of 15, while about 60% of the population would be made up of young people below the age of 25 years. And of course, we know the culture of Africa, where we take care of our children until they are fully grown. Children below the age of 25, most of them are still unmarried and at the tutelage of and the control of their parents. That means that 40% of our population will be taken care of 60%, which will be a major challenge for all of us. A major concern is the high level of unemployment among the youth, especially those that are educated and skilled. No priority for human security is more important for African countries than a sharp focus on creating jobs for this teeming young population. Skill acquisition, entrepreneurship, development, encouraging the youth to go into agriculture as a business and providing them with access to cheaper financing to fulfill their dreams are all needed to harness and unleash the power of our youth to secure our collective future. To foster this, we need to further strengthen inter-African trade to create jobs. Africa must add value to its primary products and commodities to ensure that wealth is created on the continent. This will create wider scope for prosperity for our populations. We must address the issues of inequality. There is no doubt that Africa is growing and our economies are among some of the fastest growing in the world. But this growth is not creating enough impact in terms of improving the living standard of our people. We need inclusive growth that can stimulate broader shared prosperity among our citizens. Social policies that improve access to food, water, housing, and education are crucial for inclusive growth and social participation. We must address the challenges of climate change. While Africa accounts for less than 3% of greenhouse emissions, it bears the greatest brunt of the negative impact of climate change. Increasing incidences of floods and droughts create vulnerabilities, displace populations, and threaten human security. The Africa Risk Capacity, the specialized agency of the African Union, has a major role to play in reducing the impacts of climate change on farmers, pastorals, food security, and budgets of government as they address the challenges imposed by extreme weather events and natural disasters. Africa must address the issues of women empowerment to improve human security. When there are wars and social conflicts, women and children bear the brunt of it. So when we have peace and stability, women and children should be those who benefit the most. That is why I'm calling today for an affirmative finance action for women. Under this action, banks should devote at least 30% of their bank lending in agriculture to women farmers and women-owned agribusinesses. The evidence is clear that women rarely default on loans. This purposeful focus on women must become our priority for the post-2015 MDGs. My conviction is securing women's future will secure Africa's future. Future can only occur if we improve governance and accountability systems. We must reduce the cost of governance and increase more of the national resources on the governed. In particular, we need to reduce the cost of elections in electioneering and shift greater focus on ensuring that the dividends of democracy are delivered to our peoples. But democracy alone is not enough. We must remain vigilant and look into our peculiar situation in Africa and identify critical factors that belies the extremism and terrorism that threatens our collective security. The enemies of the state today in Africa are often faceless, driven by religious extremism, ethnic mistrust, and rivalries, and propagandas of hate. Their nefarious actions are not limited to any single country, and no one is immune. Therefore, as leaders, we also must change our approach and work more closely together to confront and defeat terrorists and purveyors of hate. Terrorists do not respect borders or boundaries. And I always say that our new security architecture must recognize the fact that the terrorists and trans-border criminals don't respect our boundaries and our borders. Our law enforcement agencies have to respect our international boundaries. There must be compromise on this if we will effectively rout out criminality and trans-border crimes. While we respect our national boundaries, terrorists move in and out of our borders. It is now time that we agree as African leaders that acts of terror against one nation is an act of terror against all nations. We must not allow our countries to become safe havens for terrorists. We must cooperate maximally in better managing our political boundaries. We should adopt protocols that allow countries to pursue terrorists well into their safe havens in other nations. While we cannot redefine our borders, we must redefine our collective approach to ending trans-boundary terrorism and insurgencies. Your Excellencies, the African Union peer review mechanism needs to pay greater attention to the issues of human security, peace, and development. To promote this, I wish to propose the development of an African Human Security Index that helps us to measure the progress we are making on these and other critical issues in Africa, as shaped by African countries themselves. What Africa needs more than anything else in this 21st century, therefore, is collective action for positive transformation for the good of the continent. There is no doubt that this is African century. That is why I want to call on other African leaders to join me in seeking new ways